On this week's episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast, David and I are talking, is it Lion King or Tiger King? Top 100 used car retailers of 2019. David has his book of the week. We talk about Cars.com, works to keep autos open, and remember the gas crisis in the 1970s. All that and more on this week's episode of the Modern Dealer Podcast. Welcome in to episode 043 of the Modern Dealer Podcast. My name is David Farmer with Entice. And with me remotely is David Bertoncini. How's it going, David?
I'm well and always with you, my friend, no matter if it's remotely or if it's there in the studio. Having a little separation anxiety, as I think I mentioned before. It does,
Well, week number 9, right? Week number 9, but it's crazy.
Number 9, talking about the corona. It's been a month since I've been in the studio with you, so
yep.
It's now you're getting used to it because it takes 21 days to form a habit.
Yeah, it's
true. Kind of a habit, man. Yep. So I mean, it's like it's a new norm. It's a new norm of doing stuff mostly online. It's a new digital norm, and I know we're covering
it is the new normal, right? That's what we're talking about, and that's one of the things that I think a lot of people are going through right now, whether they're employed, whether they're working from home, is really adjusting to this new normal. A lot of people are getting antsy. We're seeing a lot of people protesting, wanting to get things open back up again, whether you agree with that or disagree with that. What's really interesting is that people are really starting to, make this adjustment, and it's very difficult for a lot of people. And I know a lot of people, like I said, whether they're working from home, not working, I mean, there's a lot of challenges out there right now.
Ton of challenges, as I mentioned earlier, working from home, those that are seeking jobs. I know people that are having this new communication through Zoom, just like we're having our meeting on our podcast on Zoom. And of course, you can catch us on iTunes. And actually, this would be a great time. If you're new to the Modern Dealer Podcast, then you know what? You should like, share, and subscribe and turn on notifications.
Ding.
Ding. And make sure that you get all the latest and greatest content. We typically record on a Tuesday and release on a Thursday. This may be coming at you sooner than later. So, but it's a new norm, David. It's just like how, as I said, it takes 21 days to have a habit. And this is kind of a new habit. Some people are against it that are protesting, and it's just, I look at it, it's the same thing as if you're still sick, why are you going back to work or school?
Yeah.
Which you may be feeling fine, but then your neighbor a few doors down may have just,
it's a difficult time. I understand both sides of the situation. The people that are protesting, that really want to open things back up, and really understanding that this is an illness. This is a sickness. This is a virus. This is something that we have to adjust to. It's really not in our control. Yes, everybody just wants everything to go back to normal. I want everything to go back to normal. From a business owner standpoint, I don't want to have to deal with the way that we're operating our businesses today. Dealerships are no different.
Well, the new norm, going back to normal, and then the new normal will be, let's fast forward, 6 months from now, and it's October, September, October timeframe. And now the new norm is, okay, so we still have a fear of social distancing. We still want to do business in a hybrid fashion. We want people to come to the showroom. Some people are still just like, this will be implanted into their scarred in their memory for, maybe years to come. They're just like, hey, I'm going to do everything I can online. Because realistically, moving forward, if Florida opened up tomorrow, I'm not going back to the gym.
No, right?
I love
exactly.
it. Trust me, I'm a gym rat. I love it. I live there, but you're not going to catch me at a gym for probably another 2 or 3 more months. I mean, I'm just going to keep working out at home. I'm not going to go back to the grocery store. I'm still going to use Instacart. There's a lot of new habits that are positive that came out of this.
Sure.
And then, of course, it kind of segues into what our main discussion is today. But I do have a book of the week, which will actually kind of plug into that. So I do got to show off Mr. Damon John.
Nice. The Power of Broke.
The Power of Broke, which this one is actually, I did meet Mr. Damon John, and I'll have to send you the picture and we could pop that up there on the thing. But I did meet Mr. Damon John, signed my book in 2017, I do believe it was, and The Power of Broke. And this basically is almost like an autobiography about Damon, basically talking about how he created FUBU basically from, the basement and, had no money, starting from a position of zero. The reason why I bring this up is a lot of dealers may be resetting in a position of zero, and to kind of, come in and, start from nothing. But on page, actually, just real fast here, just covers one thing.
Yeah, no, please.
On
This
page
is good
45,
information.
this is in the one of the first chapters of the book. It's only broken up into 4 chapters, but he goes over a couple things called a power fact. And power fact is basically, it says, in the United States, immigrants are twice as likely to start a business than a U.S. citizen because of basically the norm. It goes into new ways, American shores, you're hungry to succeed. If you've been out there, if you've been here your whole life, there's less, you don't actually, it's hard to see the forest through the trees. Bottom line is this is just basically the norm of everything being easy and business coming. And we've been on a good economy for the last 10 years. And, everything's just been not handed to us, but it's been a lot easier. It reminds me of the realtors back in 2005, 6, and 7. Then when the whole thing exploded, I was there, when the realtors were trading in their S-Class Mercedes for Corollas at the Toyota dealership. So
making $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 per month, mortgages, selling mortgages, mortgage brokers, real estate agents. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, they were riding the wave.
They were riding the wave. But this basically ties in with today's discussion. It's the position of starting out from zero and being hungry, and your salespeople and your managers and everyone's going to be hungry and more resourceful. And the whole book's premise is just having a better connection, number one, with your customer. So now is going to be the time that we connect better with our customers, because we're seeing fewer customers, and those customers that we're seeing are able to spend, maybe a little more time through, FaceTime call, getting to know that customer a little better and their needs and everything. And hopefully moving forward 6 months from now, that will help with our advertising and the way we do business, and getting into our main topic today, how we do a little better digital retailing. Back to you,
I tell you, I think that's a great book, and I think it's a great concept too. I know I've been up, I've been down. When you have been down in your career and you've been at the point where you're at zero or below zero, you know what that feels like, and that really drives a lot of people. And I think a lot of salespeople, sales managers, people in this industry, if they've been laid off, if they've been furloughed, that's where they're at right now. They're at zero, they're below zero. They're gonna have to restart. They're gonna have to start fresh and really use that fear or that power of understanding of what it feels like to drive and fuel their success. Whether you're a business owner or you're an employee, a salesperson, a sales manager, general sales manager out there, you can use that as a strength. So great book of the week, Power of Broke, Damon John. We'll definitely link that up below, so if people can research that a little bit more if they want.
And they can see that fancy picture of me and Damon John hanging out at the Oxford Exchange over there in Tampa. That's where.
Oh, cool! Very cool.
Yeah, he was in a book signing there a couple of years ago, and I brought my book the week it came out, and rolled up in there and stood in line for about an hour and got my signature and handshake, and that was it. Long before the corona, clearly.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Crazy. I mean, it's
no more handshakes and book signs, or probably no more selfies. You just think about that now.
It's so weird, like, right?
I'm out.
Yeah,
no selfie for you.
I'm out.
Gary V, can I take a selfie? Yeah. Can I give you a hug? Yeah. He's gonna be like, no, get away.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. Even once we get past it, to your point earlier, it is going to take a while for us to get comfortable with being in groups again and being able to take that selfie and shaking hands. I did see something on Facebook the other day, local dealership around here. They had a really cool button that said, "Let's meet from 6 feet." I thought that was pretty cool. So that we talked about that earlier on an earlier episode of Modern Deal Podcast, being able to adapt to this new normal, how you're going to handle when that customer comes into the dealership. I think I actually recommended the idea of using some sort of button or T-shirt to be able to communicate how we are going to address that point of contact from a customer meeting a salesperson. But I love the idea of let's meet at 6 feet. As a way to be able to say, hey, I'm here. I want to shake your hand, but I can't because of coronavirus, right? And addressing it because it needs to be addressed.
Yep, the old 6 foot rule, which didn't exactly start in our industry, but it did start locally here in
Right?
Tampa. We'll just say that the
Yeah.
6 foot rule.
Yeah.
Boom,
Yeah,
boom.
I like it. I like it. So you know what our main topic is, the digital retailing checklist that we did not get through in last week's episode. So we're going to try to get into that a little bit, and that'll be in the second segment of the Modern Dealer podcast. One of the things that we have been doing for the last 9 weeks is we have been kind of quantifying where we're at in the world. I think it's a really cool way to be able to use the Modern Dealer podcast as something in the future to be able to look back what it was like in the automotive industry. So just to put some numbers out there right now, I checked right before we recorded, 826,248 cases, 45,153 deaths. So we've definitely kind of leveled off as far as we're not seeing these huge numbers in deaths spiking, but we're also not seeing it drop off. We're seeing very consistent daily. So hopefully now that we've kind of plateaued, we're going to be able to kind of get down to the other side of this. But there is talk about maybe even the coronavirus coming back even a little bit stronger in the winter months. It's exactly what happened in the 1917, 1918 pandemic that we went through, the Spanish flu, where it came back a second time, which was worse than the first. So let's hope and pray that that is not the case this time. And if it is, we're going to be better and more prepared for it. So as you are, as a dealership, as you're making your plans on how we're going to be dealing with the coronavirus right now, I would also be forward looking, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, thinking about October, November, December. I know in October, everybody's going to be dressing up like the Lion King for their
Tiger King, Tiger King.
Tiger King, not
Yes.
Lion King.
Right neighborhood.
Yeah, I was close.
You're in the big cat, but
yeah,
just the wrong kitty.
yeah,
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so some other topical information right now, and this is something that is kind of topical to our conversation that we had last week. The PPP, the Payment Protection Program, the stimulus plan. You know, they burned through all of that money relatively fast. I think they said like 25 or 30% of all of that funding went to 1% of or 1 or 2% of the companies, and a lot of them were very large companies where this is really was designed to be for small businesses, 500 employees or less. So definitely worked through a lot of those challenges. They announced earlier this morning that a deal has been reached. They're going to refund that with another $350 billion. We're still in line. And, you know, we're very lucky not to have let anybody go. I've not let any of our employees go. I've not furloughed anybody, and hopefully we're going to be able to continue to do that. And this is something that will be able to allow us to do that. We're in line with our bank, which is a larger bank. They did not, they kind of slow walked us, I think, on getting us into the system. But now that it's been funded again, I think that's going to be able to allow us to participate in the PPP.
Yeah, that's seems a little crazy. We throw another 350 billion at it. Is that going to just get us to 2%? Because I mean, realistically, they'd have to just almost have no cap on it, because you have to allow every business that's at least a current business that's filed their taxes, that's done everything a business should be doing. They have their they've done their minutes. They've done everything a corporation should be doing in line.
Yep.
Should be able to, and they know their company size. I mean, it's all, and what you file every year. So they should know that, okay, we have this many companies, 350 billion or now 700 billion is not going to be enough money to cover it. We're only scraping maybe a small percentage of these businesses. It's going to be practically a trillion plus dollars to,
I'm
to
sure it
help
will.
save
Yeah.
these small business. Yeah. I mean, it's going to exceed $1 trillion in order to put arms around these small businesses and keep them going. It just seems crazy that all these larger companies are sucked it up. So
And
it's fun.
and there are a few that have given the funding back that they have access to. They have access to lines of credit, other other monies. A lot of publicly traded companies, they're giving that money back, putting it back into the system, for some small businesses. So that's very cool. Talking about small businesses, let's talk about some big businesses. So another thing that just came out, I think it just came out today. I got it in my email inbox from Automotive News, the top 100 used vehicle dealers. And there's some great information in that. Number one, the first thing, of course, it is the supplement that actually just goes out and lists out all of the used vehicle retailers and their numbers, 2019 versus 2018. There were a few. There are a few notable pieces of information or companies on this list that I wanted to discuss. We've discussed these companies in the past, so I think it's a great time to kind of catch up with that. So number one, topping the list, the same as last year, is CarMax. So CarMax, they had an increase from 721,512 units to 748,961. So they had a 27,000 more vehicles retailed in 2019 versus 2018. Still really the behemoth in the space. But looking at the number 4 spot, moving up from the 8th position, which was their debut in the top 100 list last year for 2018. 2019, they moved to the 4th position, and moving from 94,000 to 284,000 units. I mean, that's incredible, from 94,000 units to 284,000. That's an incredible job, a huge number. And I think that's kind of what we expected too, because we looked at the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter results. They were definitely on pace to be able to put up some big numbers.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's almost 3 times more than what they did from one year over the next year. So I mean, imagine reporting back to the good old Carvana shareholders there and just saying, hey, we actually tripled our sales, which that's goes to show that people are adopting the process of online vehicle sales, in addition to being a little more comfortable with, like, okay. And Carvana, we took a deep dive into Carvana with several episodes ago, and we know that they're trying hard. I mean, they're taking deals that most dealers will not take. They're taking those deals and they're selling those customers. They're plucking inventory out of dealers' backyards. So I mean, they've been doing it. They've been doing it right. And I know they're still not profitable.
Yeah, as I was reading that number, I was thinking, God, that's almost too big, and I did make a mistake. So I'm going to clarify myself right now. So the number 2 largest used vehicle retailer is the Penske Automotive Group. They sold 284,200 units. Carvana, they sold 177,549 units. So that was my mistake. I grabbed the information incorrectly, but still 177,000 units versus 94,000 the previous year. Unbelievable numbers, really, to be able to put
still practically doubled.
Yeah,
still
more than
what they did.
Oh yeah, 90, almost. Yep. Yeah, like probably 90, 92, 93% increase. So very cool. Another notable group, the Morgan Automotive Group. I reference them only because they're based out of our hometown, Tampa, Florida. They have I think 39 dealerships right now. They moved from the 14th to from the 20th to the 14th position, selling 33,201 units versus 25,066 units in 2018. Another big increase year over year is from 23,199 units to 31,963 units is Vroom. We also covered Vroom in an earlier episode, and unbelievable, 30,000 units. Pretty darn good. So anyways, that is the top 100 used vehicle dealers list. And as you know, I shared this article with you, and this supplement with you, and there was an article in the front few pages, kind of recapping what's on the list, seeing that there are online retailers really moving up into those larger positions, big gains from Carvana, CarMax. They talk in this article about how digital retailing is really making a big impact in the way that customers are purchasing vehicles. But then they also talk a lot about how coronavirus has just really kind of demolished 2020 from a volume standpoint, and that how that volume is going to be affected going forward. But there was one cool thing that I noticed. Findlay Automotive Group in the Southwest, they had a nice sizable increase in sales, used vehicles, one year to the next, and they accredited the sales from adopting a new, more aggressive pricing to market technology using vAuto to be able to do that. But they also accredited the success from their online merchandising of vehicles utilizing a photo booth. Now, I don't know if this is from our good friend Jay Smithwick with a 360 booth. I did go to one of their dealership websites, a Toyota dealership, and I did see that they had a photo booth. So I don't know if that was what they were speaking of or not, but that is definitely something that dealers should be considering right now, is how they can merchandise better online with better photos for new and used vehicles.
I can always, I've learned a way how to spot out Jay's booths, and that's actually from the flooring. So if you see the flooring, it's always looks like it's checkered, but it's not. Mm-hmm. It's like just two different directions that the tile plates are facing. So it's a little tip on how to spot out the 360 booths. It's a unique signature on the floor. Yep,
absolutely. So that's a great piece of information. I think they also had the top 125 new vehicle dealers that came out with the last episode, and I didn't include that in the notes for episode 043. Maybe we'll cover that in our next episode. We on that list we were talking about a Tampa. A Tampa-based company being on that list. There's also another piece of information in the automotive industry news that has a tie back to the Tampa area, and that is the new AutoNation president. So I don't know if you're familiar, but I think the existing CEO of AutoNation stepped back due to some health concerns. And then I think they brought Mike Jackson back as the interim CEO, but they actually moved somebody into the president position of AutoNation, and that's Jim Bender.
Mr. Bender, yeah.
So he used to be in the Tampa market. He was the Tampa market president for a long time, and I think he was running one of the Carlisle stores, which was part of those early acquisitions in the old AutoWay days.
Yep, and he was his home office was over there at the Lincoln store for many years over there on East Bay and upstairs, and so we've had plenty of visits from Mr. Bender.
Absolutely. I sold him a car too.
Oh yeah.
I sold his wife a car. He coordinated the deal and delivered that to them. Yep. Long time ago.
A long time ago. So that's actually that's good news to know. So Mr. Bender is moving on up.
Absolutely. It's very cool. I love to see all the Tampa ties. And hey, I'm not a sports fan. I'm not a big football fan, but we've had some big news for the Tampa Bay Bucks, right?
the old GOAT himself, greatest of all time, Tom Brady, has signed up with the Bucks. He was in the news this week already because he did violate a little the park rules. So it was a closed park, and they I guess the guy says, I don't care how many Super Bowl rings you have, you're not in this. You can't use the park.
Yep, exactly. That's pretty funny. He's living in Derek Jeter's house. I don't know if you've ever been by there, but I used to live
Davis
on
Island.
Yep, I used to live on Davis Island, not too far from that. And there's like, and then the way that I used to explain that, it says, "Whoa, you live on Davis Island." So you have to, keep in mind that part of the island is where the rich and famous live, and you got the Derek Jeter mansion and those large. But then there's also part of the island that normal people can live as well. And I lived on the normal people side of Davis Island, but I loved being down there. Loved being down there. Although I do love being up in the Wesley Chapel area, living on Davis Island, so it was very, very cool.
Cool. Yeah, it's a nice neighborhood there, boss. It's fancy.
And also Gronkowski, he's coming to Tampa Bay. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah. Yep. Saw that too. Yep. So it's looks like we'll have a New England South here.
Yep, exactly. And then we have the Super Bowl is going to be in Tampa for 2021, right?
2021. Yeah, we got the Super Bowl, and it's going to be a really crazy sports season this year because, right in the middle of basketball and hockey, everything has been paused, and then baseball has not started. And, by September, things should be a little more stabilized. So I do believe football will probably be the only one that's going to stay on track for having a proper season. But, hopefully this thing will be squashed a little better by time then,
Yep. All right, so we got 29 minutes, 3 seconds on the Modern Dealer podcast clock. We're going to go ahead and get this wrapped up. Please come back to the second segment of MDP, and we're going to get into our main topic. Right, we're going to do a quick overview of TradeMaker from Entice. With TradeMaker, you have the ability to allow your customer to get their KBB trade value on your dealership website instantly and also request an express cash offer. As you can see, the customer has the ability to upload images of their vehicle. We can incentivize the trade appraisal appointment visit with a custom Visa reward card that is optional. Now we're going to share the Kelley Blue Book value instantly, and then the customer does have the ability to let you know what vehicle they're considering next, and also schedule the appointment at your dealership by selecting the day part, and time. We complete the process by providing a trade appraisal appointment or a trade appraisal certificate that includes the express cash offer requested notification right there. And this is where it gets really cool. Now your management team at your dealership is going to receive an urgent express cash offer request from our system with the customer's information, the vehicle information, and then also the actual images uploaded by the customer. Now, to complete the process at the dealership, all your management has to do is follow the link in the email, enter in the express cash offer you would like to make to your customer, sign it with your digital signature and password, and then approve the offer to be submitted to the customer. The customer is then going to receive an express cash offer email from you that includes the information directly in the email and an express cash offer certificate. So that was a super fast overview of TradeMaker featuring express cash offer. Welcome back into episode 043 of the Modern Dealer Podcast. And we're going to get back into not only our main topic, but I actually have some more information that we're going to get to. So maybe even we're going to take this whole digital retailing checklist and we'll split it up over 3 or 4 different episodes, because there's a lot of good information out there to be talking about. And really, what is more important than dealing with today's crises and really having a good understanding of what's going on? I don't think anything is more important than that. But anyways, okay, so a couple things that I thought was interesting as I was doing some research for this episode is that GM has a company named Maven, which is a shared mobility or short-term leasing program that was developed by General Motors, they shut that down, which really made me start to think about of how COVID-19 is really going to affect everything in the automotive industry, from Uber, from other ride sharing, shared mobility platforms. I know there's some technology companies out there that was really trying to figure out how they can create this ability for these short-term leasing deals, or leasing vehicles to Uber drivers, and really how customers are engaging with the ride sharing infrastructure. I think that's going to be happening less and less. People are going to be less comfortable to be in non-personal spaces. So it's just something to think about as we're moving through into this new normal, that some of the things that we were trying to adjust to are no longer going to be something that we need to adjust to.
Yeah, I'll definitely miss Uber, because that's usually my out-of-town source of don't rent a car, just Uber. But now
I think what's interesting, I still think that Uber is going to be available, and it's going to be there. It's not going to go away. It's still going to be there for people that are going to be traveling. It's going to be in lieu of taking taxis. But I think what was happening for a lot of younger people, Generation Z, and the generation after that, they were looking at maybe not purchasing a vehicle and just using Uber. I mean, I know a couple people personally, younger people that have not gotten their driver's license, or maybe got their driver's license, but had not worried about getting a car because they don't need one. They're able just to jump in an Uber and take it. So I think that change is now shifting back to personal ownership, personal space, not wanting to rely just on Uber as a way to get around, but actually have their own personal, reliable transportation.
So here's a little piece of information you can't get anywhere except for where I live here downtown. There's a gentleman in my building. He is he owns, he's mostly a wholesaler. He does about like 300, 400 units a month as a wholesaler.
Wow.
And he supplies stores and stuff like that. He's telling me that currently Enterprise in Tampa has, or maybe it's Central Florida, has 21,000 vehicles sitting at the block.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's we're not even thinking of that wholesale side of the spectrum of the business being affected. But when you mentioned Uber, it made me think of rental cars, and you're thinking of
if you
how
just
about
think,
Toro?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about, all the wheels are still turning in this economy, such as all these vehicles are coming off lease. A lot of these vehicles are going to be coming out of rental car fleets. That kind of stuff is not going to stop just because of COVID-19. Most auctions are not in operation right now, or at least they're not allowing people to come into the auction. They're relying on online bidders only, but that is going to slow down because dealerships aren't going to be buying like they have in the past. So we have, like, some parts of the economy are still rolling. Other parts of the economy has slowed down or stopped, which is really going to take a lot of time to adjust. One of the challenges is going to be this buildup of used vehicle inventory. And we know that the way that the pricing works for used vehicles is supply and demand. When there's too much supply and the demand is low, prices are going to fall. So it's going to take a while to get back.
He already said prices have dropped from what he's seen 20%.
Yeah,
they've already on used vehicles have dropped, and that is a shock, because we're looking at the SAR and looking at the numbers of used vehicle sales dominate new car sales. I mean, it was projected 40 million used car vehicle sales for 2020.
Yep.
And they're talking that might be around 30 million.
Yep.
You can already see what's happening. Plus, with the drop in pricing, I was also talking to she was actually on the Modern Dealer podcast. Our girl Rachel. Lyles.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes. So we met in Vegas.
We need to get that released.
She was telling me today that the dealers in Texas, because oil is worth $0 currently at the time. This is, what are we, April 22nd, 2020, and a barrel of oil is worth negative amount of money, or $0, which is crushing
Yeah.
Those she calls them the roughneck guys that are working the oil fields over there in Texas, they're going to be out of a job, which is another, and that's not even COVID-19
That's like,
affected. That's just oil price affected. That's hurting. And those guys are your number one, those blue collar guys are your number one, Tundra buyers, your
yep.
Tacoma buyers. They're
Big,
buying vehicles for
huge
their
truck, the
wives, their
biggest truck market.
Corollas and
Yeah.
Siennas. It's huge. Yeah. So that's taking a huge effect out there in Texas right now. And that's not even something that is being, we're not talking about that a lot. And I'm not saying you and I, but the news is not really talking
Right.
about a whole lot. There's like, okay, fuel's worth a barrel of oil is worth, practically nothing right now.
Yeah.
I think
that's
it's
starting
having such a trickle effect
yeah.
on so many different areas. Like we're talking the wholesale, we're talking
Exactly.
fuel prices.
Some parts of the economy keeps on moving. Some part of the economy is not. Supply and demand. Right. Too much gasoline, too much oil production. Nobody wants to take it because they want to buy it, which has put that situation where there's actually a negative value where they needed to move it and store it, and they're paying people to actually take it. I think they were able to make an adjustment in how that was working, and we're starting to see that stabilize and increase again. But I mean, gas was $1.69. I noticed on the way in this morning. I can't personally remember the last time it was $1.69 a gallon. I think I read somewhere that they said it was a 99, but I don't ever remember it being that low since I was like in high school. But maybe I'm wrong.
Well, remember when we were salespeople, when we get the little gas voucher, when you go fill up a car,
yeah.
I remember seeing it was $1.75 at the little mobile station around the corner from Toyota.
Yeah, I remember that. Sign. That's funny
stuff.
Sign.
There's a little slip. Okay, cool. See you. Bye.
That's awesome.
Crazy, man.
All right. So, okay. So one last thing before maybe we start to tackle our main topic is I did notice that cars.com has done a really good job of spearheading the importance of the automobile sector staying open and being considered a vital business. And they had some success with that program, being able to be federally deemed as an essential business for both service and for sales. A lot of dealerships have the ability to sell vehicles remotely with salespeople working from home or delivering curbside or delivering to the consumer and still abiding by social distancing rules. So I think it was very cool that cars.com, a publicly traded company now, spearheaded that endeavor to really support the automotive industry. And I mean, the automotive industry is something I love. I'm a part of. I've been a part of it my entire life. So it's really cool to be able to see people within the industry band together and really understand how important this industry is to the world.
See, yeah, that is true. And what's crazy is they did what NADA should have done when they went to DC and they found, who do they need, what legislation they had to go after, they emailed them, they called them, they were up their ass and basically said, hey man, for these other businesses to get, help and funding, hotels and airlines. I'm like, and that the guy in the video, he goes, I was pissed off, man. So he says, as a vendor, I'm raising my hand.
Cars.com, Vetter. Yep.
Yeah, Vetter. He says, as a vendor, we went to bat for the auto industry to get their doors open as far as being an essential business with sales and leasing. Yes, and they said they're not done there. They're still.
There's still some states that have not abided by the federal guidelines, and that's all the federal government can do is create these guidelines. It's ultimate responsibility and to the states and the governors to determine how they're going to reopen the United States from a business standpoint. But I think it's very cool that that was something that was done within the industry. And what really kind of reminds me of is moving past this whole "woe is me" type of feeling with what we're going through is that, we're entrepreneurs, we're business people. We just need to adapt to the situation that we have and figure out how to make it work. Not just focus on why we can't do it, but figure out a way to make it happen? Does it mean that we are retailing cars remotely? Does it mean that, we're still opening up our dealerships, but we're abiding by the social distancing rules until we can get through this medical situation? I don't think that it means that we just forget that the coronavirus is here, but we really look at how we can structure our business to be successful dealing with this situation. It's not the first time that we've gone through this. We've gone through a very similar economic situation in 2008 with the Great Recession. That killed a lot of businesses, but we overcame. There's other situations. I remember, back in the 70s, there was a huge gas crisis, and the automobile industry overcame, adapted. Instead of having these big giant steel behemoths, we shrunk down the cars, made gas mileage more important. And then also back in the 70s, there was a time when interest rates were like 20%. You probably don't remember that because.
No, but I read about it.
But there was a time, right? Yeah, we've read about
it was
that
in our history books, and we talked about it. But it just makes me think when you mentioned the fuel prices in the 70s, and people would wait in line to get fuel, like
hours and hours and hours
for toilet paper, and waiting in line to get in, rationing things. But it makes me think, I wonder what Tesla's position is on all this and all the e-vehicles that we've started to pioneer. And maybe people will be looking like, is it a pro? Is it a plus that gas is so cheap and practically, it's so cheap right now. I wonder how, what their position on all that is. That's almost like a whole nother topic to talk about right there.
It really
I'm
is.
actually getting into something here. We're going to keep squashing for digital retailing. It's like, I wonder what Tesla's thinking right now. I'm like, what are they doing? I mean, it's like, their whole business model was built on $4 a gallon. And when we hit $4 a gallon in 2008, and I was getting $5,000 over sticker for a Prius.
Exactly.
I was like,
you remember all those SUVs and big trucks. People are trying to trade those things in.
Expedition for a Corolla.
Yeah, you couldn't even look in the book to figure out what a value of an Expedition or a big F-250 was worth, because you look at the book and you're going, what do I do? Take half of rough book, and that's what those things were worth? That's what they were bringing through the ring? It was crazy, and people were, they're trading those things in and jumping into these Priuses, and it was only because we were at that 4 and touching or getting close to that $5 per gallon, and it almost had kind of a mass hysteria type of effect on people, on how they were, what their buying process was, right?
It totally did. I do remember distinctly a woman trading. She had an Expedition. It's a 8-passenger vehicle. She had 5 kids, and she traded it for a Prius. And I was like, what are you going to do with the kids? I mean, I'll just put them in the hatchback. I'm like, all right.
Okay.
Good luck with that.
It's weird. Yeah.
And then, looking at the value of the vehicles, almost looking at it like it had a salvage title. I mean, a car with a salvage title, it's like, all right, this thing's half value.
Nobody wanted to buy them. Nobody was buying them through the ring. So it was insane. So anyways, so it was very cool. Cars.com article that's available at the Cars.com site if you want to learn more. I'm also including that link to, there's a 3 or 4 minute video kind of going over that. All right. So I think that kind of covers all my topical information that I wanted to go here, David. It looks like we can kind of maybe get into the checklist for digital retailing. So we did talk about the number 1 and number 2, I think, in episode 042, and that was, does the technology reside on your dealership website, or does it require a new website or a subdomain? And then the second one is, can a customer get a hard number for their vehicle in the process? And I think that's a very important part of your process. If you're selling vehicles online, how does that trade appraisal process work for a customer? Do you have a mechanism in place to be able to put a hard number on a car for a customer through your website or with your salespeople?
I like actually, tip number 3 there, or, on number 3 checklist there, can a customer get their trade-in vehicle payoff if they have one? And, there's there's customers out there which are not going to think about that when they're working their deal, or they'll think that, oh, I have
They don't think
20,000.
about
They
that when
actually
they're
think
in
about
the dealership
22,000.
showroom, right?
Right,
It's like,
right.
yeah.
They don't know. I mean, I think maybe some people nowadays will check on their phone. Like, I can always just look up the payoff
Yeah, that's true.
on my
That's
phone
true.
because it's with my credit union. But if it's, with a secondary company like a Santander or a secondary lender, it's like, well, I don't really know how much I owe on the vehicle.
And
That's going to
nobody
be a
really
huge
keeps
help.
track of that information. I mean, they don't. I mean,
Right.
it reminds me when I was, back being a desk manager, and it's like you're starting to work your deal with with the salesperson. Okay, we got the car. Did we get the car appraised? Okay, great. Did we call and get a verified payoff? It's like, oops,
Huh?
no.
Deer in the headlights. Look at the salesperson. They're like,
I mean,
oh,
how many times did that happen to you?
the
1,000?
salesperson look at you like,
10,000? Yeah.
boss, aren't you supposed to call for the payoff? I'm like, no, dude, I'm working
No.
6 deals. You're supposed to call for the payoff. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Fill out
funny.
the form too. Make sure you get me an overnight address for the bank, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So really you got to think through all of these things. If a customer is on your website, I would recommend going to your website right now from the point of view, let's say a customer wants to buy a vehicle from you. They don't want to come into the dealership showroom. What does that process look like? If a customer, and I would even recommend, maybe, grabbing somebody, that's not in the business, put them in front of a computer and say, let's pretend that you want to buy a vehicle right now from my website. What would you do? What would be the first thing that you do? And kind of ask them these questions and see if they're able to find how to get a trade value and how to work a deal, how to schedule a test drive. All of those pieces that go into selling cars online is your dealership website set up for it?
Have your mom or your sister mystery shop
Yeah.
you. There you go. Right there.
Absolutely.
And just have somebody in your family mystery shop your dealership and say, hey, can you see if you can buy a car for me? And get their feedback. Because I mean, hopefully they'll give you a honest feedback. Like, this is it sucks, or man, that was great.
Usually they'll be honest with you, right? It's like, oh gosh,
Oh yeah.
gulp. Yep. Agreed. Okay. So that's on the checklist. Number 3. Number 4, can a customer get a payment based on their credit score? Now that's another biggie right there too. It's like most customers don't know what their credit score is. So if they're kind of in the middle of going through the process on your dealership website and they get to the point where they're looking to calculate a real payment for their purchase, do they have an ability to create a payment based on their credit score? So that's something you might want to look at. They have the availability to get their credit score without leaving the digital retailing application.
And of course, that would not be a vanity score. It's a real FICO score. That's something that you can deliver a vehicle upon, because what if they were given this score and like, I'm a 700 Beacon, and really they're a 620.
Yeah.
Just because they have
so that's something
some vanity score.
Yeah. So let me kind of just go further explain a little bit on that. So there is what's out there right now is called a Vantage score, and that Vantage score is it's more of a consumer facing credit score. It's the range is a little bit higher than a typical FICO score. So you might have a 700 Vantage score, but maybe you're going to be somewhere in the 6s if you are on your real FICO score. So the last thing that I'd want to do as a dealer is to allow a customer to get their credit score on my website, but it not be the actual score that I'm going to use in calculating a payment. So very good point for bringing that up.
That and trying to deliver a deal upon that, because the customer's gonna be like, your site
Wait
showed
a
me this is what you gotta do, and you're like, fuck. What do I do?
Yeah. It's a
Mr.
great way to
Customer,
piss off your customers.
The vendor, Mr. Customer, the vendor that we use really doesn't give us the exact score, and they're trying to give them the proper explanation. They're looking at you like you're nuts. They're like, whatever. I want this 4.9 I supposedly qualify for, and you're like, but you're 620.
All right. So number 5, can a customer calculate a penny perfect lease and or loan payments? So is the payment that you're going to be able to provide, is it a transactional payment? Does it include the taxes and fees from your dealership, from your state, from your city, from your county? Does it take all of those things into consideration? Just having a payment calculator on your website that just has like a general term and a general interest rate, I don't think really provides any real value from a digital retailing standpoint. You want to make sure that you're using a digital retailing tool that has the ability to use transactional data and real taxes and fees. So it means basically giving them full transparency into how a deal works, because you're asking them to purchase a vehicle online, but your tool needs to be able to support all of those, that complex set of deal calculations.
Absolutely. And where are we at there?
Number 6. Can a customer go ahead?
Research and select F&I products specific to the vehicle selected. So, when purchasing their vehicle there and they're working their deal, if they had, if they were figuring their deal and say, it was a used car and, it didn't qualify for, a specific warranty, but your warranty provider said, well, let's put that into your digital solution. And then you go to deliver the vehicle and you can't deliver upon that warranty or deliver upon the term, financing terms. But going back to the warranties.
Yeah. And also let's say a 72-month, 100,000-mile warranty might be a little different price on an F-250 than it would be for a Toyota Corolla. So
Correct.
Just putting just a general figure out there, get an extended warranty from, $1,000 or $1,500 versus being able to specifically price out and quote a vehicle service contract during the digital retailing process. And I think that really creates a good thought experiment. And that is having another customer, or another person go through your site and go through the process. You have a choice as a dealer to provide some transparency with your F&I products and give the customer the ability to really research what products are available online. We talk about this with Lloyd Truschell back on an earlier episode, and he's also talking about that in his most recent article in F&I and Showroom Magazine. So we're going to give him a plug twice for that article, but really being able to allow a customer to research and understand and look at what products are available. Apple has proved it that is, if you can provide transparency and education around what those products, the values that the products provide, more customers will opt in to purchase them versus you having to sell the products to the customer. So that's something you want to consider, is that does your DR tool have the ability to incorporate real F&I products that are decoded down to the individual vehicles that you're selling?
Yep. That would be good stuff.
All right, so we're going to burn through these next few so you have a little bit of time with your Birch 3 tips. So number 7, can a customer complete a credit application online? I've seen a lot of DR tools just include a link to the dealership's existing credit application. So meaning a customer could be walking through the process and then they have to leave the tool, go over to a different page on your site to complete that, and then hopefully come back. So if I was looking for a DR tool, I would make sure that it's one seamless experience.
Would that stepping off the platform, going over to that credit application, would that information most likely not be transferred back to the deal? That's kind of maybe
it really all depends on how the dealership's credit application is set up. Is there any type of integration between the DR tool and the credit application and whatever decisioning engine that you're using? I would say that virtually every dealership is either going to be using DealerTrack or Route One to send those deals to their lenders to get the approvals back. So you're going to want to make sure that you have that interconnectivity between Route One DealerTrack, your customer's credit application and your DR tool. So it provides this the seamless experience. We know that the second biggest reason that the second biggest complaint customers have about purchasing a vehicle after it takes too long is that the work that they're doing online or previous to the sale isn't translating into the actual purchase experience. So you want to make sure that your DR tool is going to be solving for that. So I tell you what, David, we made it through number 3 to 7. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. That's going to give you a couple minutes to get through your Bert's 3 tips.
Bring, bring, ding, ding, ding. All right. So my tip number 1 is actually came from Mr. Damon John from his book there, The Power of Broke, and that was just being very resourceful. Digging in deep with our customers right now is this is the critical time for dealers to dig in deep. Salespeople, sales managers, take that extra step, take that extra time, which the next customer is not coming through the door on the up bus. So it's just one of those best things. Second is to adapting to this new situation and making it the new norm. We talked about this before with maybe it may be sanitizing your vehicles upon delivery from service or from sales. There's going to be a ton of new things that customers are going to expect moving forward. Come projecting 6 months forward to September of 2020, customers are going to expect things that we are doing now to become the new norm that we do in the future. And going to digital retailing. I mean, take a look at your credit tool that you may have. Is it a soft credit pool? I mean, is it a Vantage score, or is it a actual real score that you can deliver a vehicle from? Because worst thing you want to do for your CSI is have a shitty tool and customer thinks they're 700 and they're really a 620, and you've got to break the news to them. And you may get through the deal, but then you've got a delivered car and lost some money and got a bad Google review and a bad survey. Bing, 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 all 3.
It's all connected. It really is all connected. Well, I tell you what,
man.
That puts us about at the end of episode 043. We're going to come back for 044 next week, probably in the same situation. So for David
and David,
that's a wrap.